Yo, what is up, guys? Your boy IzuKage here, and this is actually a viewer requested what if. So if you guys have any what if suggestions, put it in the description down below. This is what if Deku was Rick Sanchez. So if I can find this comment, I should put it up on screen right now. So if you don't enjoy the what if, just blame him. Like, why would you ever suggest that? Like, come on, So yeah, send hate to him, not me. Let's get into the what if. So we start this what if off with a 4-year-old Izuku Midoriya. Everyone in his class has been showing signs of a quirk except him. All people see him as is just someone who always writes in his stupid notebooks. So this is a week after Bakugo gets his quirk, and his ego is sky high right now, and everyone is praising him for how good he is, and he'll definitely be the next number one hero, maybe even the next symbol of peace. So while Izuku was writing down something in his notebook, Bakugo walks up. "Hey Deku, what do you keep writing in that stupid notebook?" Bakugo grabs the book and tries to see what's so special about it. He looks and sees some long math equations no 4-year-old should be able to understand. Bakugo is looking at it like it's some hieroglyphics, turning the book sideways, upside down, trying to figure out some way he can comprehend this. He just, his mind just melts, and he, explodes the book and says, "You nerd," and throws the book back at Deku. So after school, Izuku goes home and asks his mom to take him to the quirk doctor. Can I speak? Asks his mom to take him to the quirk doctor. She agrees. He says he's been seeing signs of him having a quirk, so yeah, she agrees, and they head to the doctor. So while Izuku is getting his test, the doctor is still the same one as canon, and if you don't know by now, man, go catch up with the manga or read some YouTube or watch some YouTube videos to catch up with everything. And so this doctor is Dr. Ujiko. He works for All For One, and there are theories that this doctor actually stole Izuku's quirk in canon. So with that said, Izuku is getting his test done for a quirk, and he gets x-rays, some scans, and when the doctor's finally finished, he's looking over his papers before he calls in Mrs. Midoriya, and he's reading page to page, and he literally begins drooling. He's like, oh my god, everyone is gonna love this. He sees Jesus. He sees omnifabric. Wow, it's really not that hard. He sees omnifabrication. Finally, this is a level above enhanced intelligence. This is peak human intelligence. This is off the charts. He's looking at the graph where his intelligence stacks up with other people in the world, and he doesn't see Izuku. It couldn't fit. So he looks over to Izuku, just kicking his feet in the chair, and he smirks. He tells Izuku he has one more test to do, and he grabs him by the arm and yanks Izuku. He's a bit scared because why is he treating him so hard, but he's a doctor, he knows best. So he takes him to a room, and the walls are aligned with human-sized test tubes. Izuku begins to stop walking. He says, "I'm okay. I think I'll go back to my mom." But Dr. Ujiko, won't let go, and Izuku begins yanking his arm away. But the doctor, being stronger than Izuku, overpowers him, dragging him along. But as he was about to throw him into one of the tubes, Izuku kicks him square in the nuts, and this makes him let go of his hand, and he runs off to his mom. He goes and makes up some excuse to leave, saying the doctor said he had some super intelligence quirk, and they can leave because it's not that special. That's what he says. But Inko she's confused but happy to hear her son has a quirk. She honestly thought he would have been quirkless, and in this world you don't want that. So yeah, so they go home and yeah, nothing really happens. So we fast forward to when Izuku is 13. During this time, he's been actually training and inventing machines. He's developed machines to help him to help physic physically boost his oh my gosh, to boost his physical attributes like speed and strength. And at school, no one bullies him. He actually invented something to temporarily cancel quirks. It's a watch that shoots out a laser. Like, I can't speak today. Jeez. He creates a watch that shoots out a laser, and if it touches someone, he can, turn some dials on the watch and set it to how long their quirks are gone for. So, they know not to mess with Izuku. But Bakugo, being, dumb, he still does. So so there has been some days where Izuku is fed up with Bakugo and his ego, and turns his quirk off for days on end, and he always comes crawling back on his knees for Deku to give him his quirk. Like, please Deku, I need it. It's a part of me. And he would give him back, but as soon as he gets it, Bakugo just throws up a Uno reverse card and tries exploding Deku's face, but ends up getting it taken away for another day. You'd think he learned his lesson, but no. But yeah, Izuku has actually never told his mom about all his inventions. He hides them, thinking it's better for her not to know. He hides them in their basement. So, Inko, during this time, she knows today is the last day before Izuku starts training to go to UA. She's really excited and doesn't really have anything else to do around the house. So she decides to clean. She cleans the living room, kitchen, the bedrooms, leaving everything spotless, and there's no stone that's been unturned. So then she goes down to the basement. She opens the door and it's all cobwebs, and she looks down and she sighs and says, this is gonna be a real challenge. So she goes down and begins sweeping and realizes there's this curtain hiding off a section of the room. And she begins removing the curtains and sees all this stuff. Just imagine Rick's garage from, in the show, and everything there, that's what she's seeing. So she's looking around, opening drawers, touching different machines, and while this is happening, let's switch to Izuku's perspective. He opens the door and calls out for his mom, but he hears no reply. He starts walking around and sees the basement door open. He's like, no, please. He runs down the stairs to see his mom. She was about to press something, but Izuku calls out for her name. She turns around but knocks over some beakers, some liquids, like the liquids mix, and a massive explosion goes off, bursting Izuku's eardrums, causing them to ring. Izuku gets blasted back into a wall and he's barely alive. He looks around trying to find his mom. He's calling out her name. He crawls over to his table, which is explosion proof, because he would have a few accidents, so he has contingency plans. So he crawls over to the desk and he sees only one thing: a ring. A ring his mom always wore. The only thing she had left of Hisashi. Izuku held the ring tightly, shedding a tear, and says, "No, this can't be happening. I'll fix this." Izuku begins drawing math equations on the ground and reaching for a box that survived the explosion, and in it was a portal gun prototype. He drops some black liquid in it, fueling it up, and we know this as a concentrated dark matter. It's not easy to come by. So yeah, he uses his only supply of it and fuels up the portal gun, then shoots it in a green spiraling portal appearing in front of him. He runs through it and he enters this universe that seems like his own. He's looking around and sees it's pretty deserted, no one's here. And he looks up and sees a literal meteor coming, like about to crash into Earth. No, he doesn't want to stick around, so he jumps back through the portal. He goes through many different realities, somewhere he wasn't even born, somewhere, the League of Villains took over. So he goes through many of these, and he finally stops on one that looks a bit normal. And by this time, his portal gun ran out of fuel, and it would be a while before he could make any more. So Izuku begins walking around, and everything seems okay. There's no dinosaurs, no meteors, no nothing. It's pretty normal. So he went in the direction of his house, and he sees him and his mom unpacking some groceries from the car. He goes and hides behind a nearby house until his mom goes inside. When she finally does, Izuku ran up on himself. This universe is Izuku, and uses a laser beam to shoot right through his brain, killing him like instantly. No pain at all, no screaming, no nothing. He quickly goes and buries the body and then returns to the car. His mom walks out, and Izuku was just staring at her as if he'd seen a ghost, and Inko waves her hands in front of his face, catching him, taking him out of his daze. And he's like, oh, hey mom. And she says, are you not gonna bring the groceries inside? Izuku turns around and looks at the car and sees, all the groceries, and says, oh, yeah. So Inko chuckles a bit, and she goes inside while Izuku is packing everything. So while he's putting stuff in the fridge and the cupboards, his mom says, I can't believe what happened to All Might. And Izuku is confused. He says, well, what happened? And she says, you don't know? He turned to villainy. The person who was once the symbol of peace is now the symbol of chaos. And Izuku is like dumbfounded. So let me go on to explain. So the universe Izuku is in right now is similar to his original one, but in this, All Might was able to use the previous user's quirks, and he used this to take down All Might for good. Not All Might. He uses this to take down All for One, actually killing him. And after he kills him, he sees the blood on his hand, and he says, what makes me different from a villain? So All Might goes a bit, he goes off in the brain a bit. He isn't as he used to. And in his weakened state, the spirit of All for One, he goes into All Might's mind, corrupting his ideals, turning him into All for All, the symbol of chaos. Izuku sighed, thinking this is going to be a lot of work to get, this back to normal. So, he sighs and says, he wonders what else could be different. And as he says this, he hears a knock at the door. He goes and opens it, and this girl with long blue hair runs in and hugs Izuku, actually kissing him on the cheek. He plays along because he doesn't want to look suspicious. So, after all, they're in a different universe. He's supposed to be used to this. So they release the hug, and Nejire, yes, this is a Nejire ship. I love Nejire, to be honest. So yeah, when they release the hug, Nejire says, I can't wait to celebrate when you pass the entrance exams. And Izuku nods, and after talking with Inko a bit, she finally leaves, and Izuku just goes up to his room and crashes on his bed, exhausted from all that's been going on. First, All Might, now he has a girlfriend and all these responsibilities. So that day, he tries to get caught up on everything that's different in this world, and begins to work on some of his inventions that he had back home. So, to help him out in this universe. So the next morning, he goes to UA for the entrance exams, and Nejire is, in her uniform waiting for him because she's a third year, So she runs up, giving him a hug, and they hold hands while walking in. He sits down and notices Bakugo, right next to him. He says, oh, hey Bakugo. He looks, and Bakugo looks over to Izuski. What? Bakugo looks over to Izuku and says, "Do I know you?" He's like, "Yeah, we went to the same middle school." He's like, "No, I went to Arden Middle School." And that's just something I made up. It's supposed to be the middle school that's, what's his name, Tenya went to. So in this, Bakugo is a bit posh, he's a bit richer and not as much as an ego, since he grew up with people with amazing quirks, some even better than his. So as President Might finishes the explanation of the robots, they go to the gates and no countdown, the gates just begin to open and everyone dashes out. Izuku just flying using some jetpack boots, and he goes and just disintegrates robots using his laser watch. So he goes around shooting robots and they disintegrate in like 2 seconds. So while this is going on, the Zero Pointer still makes an appearance but is easily taken down by Izuku, using the same laser. But while he's helping Uraraka out of the rubble, someone crashes through the training ground ceiling. The alarms of UA starts going off and some heroes start entering the training ground. So Izuku goes over to see what all the commotion is, and he sees this man in a red and white suit with like yellow boots and gloves. He goes and takes a closer look, and the signature hair, the wide smile, he's like, All Might? He sees this evil version of All Might, and he is pretty taken aback because All Might was still his sort of his hero. So seeing this caught him off guard. So the heroes that went into the training ground begin attacking him. People like Aizawa, Gang Orca, Cementos, but they were all like no match for this evil All Might. So after being wiped out, All Might just basically declares war on all heroes, then jumps away. Not jumps away, he flies away, using Nana Shimura's quirk, because he has access to the quirks now. So he uses this quirk and floats away. Flies, floats, whatever, he leaves. So with that said, I'll leave this one off here. Thank you guys for sticking around to the end of the video. You can comment down below, where would you want this series to go, and who knows, I might implement it in the next part. So if you like it, if you like my content in general, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next What If.